had a hunting ranch. So they had a firing range, and there were cartridges that were, spent all over the place. And so, of course, when the investigators went and investigated this double murder scene, as gory and awful as it was right there were lots of spent cartridges around the dead bodies. And they went to the firing range, and they got the spent cartridges from there. And wouldn't you know it, the investigators got an expert to look at those cartridges, and the investigator came back and said, I think the same gun fired the bullets that killed Maggie and the bullets at the firing range. But they don't have the gun. So that's when I bring in Steve Wolf, because he's a firearm safety expert, also happens to know how on earth you can determine all that and how important it is. And Steve, I know you probably overheard the conversation I was having with Brian Enton and Andrew Davis. It was fought over, really aggressively with a bunch of flurry of motions, and the judge said, too bad, to the defense, too bad. The prosecutor's ballistics expert is coming in, and they're going to say, and let me read it because this stuff rolls off your tongue. It doesn't roll off mine. The expert is expected to testify that the 300 blackout cartridges, it's .300. Is that the terminology? Call them .300, or what do you call them?
Yeah, that is a 300 blackout cartridge right there.
Okay. All right. So apparently the expert's going to testify that the 300 blackout cartridges fired at the murder scene, quote, came from the same weapon that fired 300 blackout cartridges at a shooting range and near the residence. So I ask you, is that really good science?
It could be good science. There's no such thing as a spent cartridge, though. A cartridge consists of a casing, a primer, powder, and a bullet. Once it's been fired, what remains is a casing and a bullet, but there's no longer a cartridge. So we need to be specific. What did they find? Did they find ammunition, bullets themselves that had been fired, or did they find casings that remained from those firing times?
Well, you tell me, if he had gone and done these tests, what would he have been testing? Fired bullets, which I would think would be hell and gone, or the spent casings?
It could be both, really. So as a bullet travels down the barrel of a gun and rubs up against it, the barrel leaves lines against the side of the bullet, which can be forensically analyzed and tied back to that gun. So every gun that fires a bullet...
There's my question, though. Steve, yeah. Perfectly?
Yes.
Or can it be mistaken? Because that's what's going to be litigated with regard to this expert and what this expert found.
It is widely accepted FBI and forensic science that you can tie casings and bullets to the gun from which they were fired. It's legitimate science.
Even if they've been out there on the range getting weathered and beat up for years?
Hey, I've been out on the range getting weathered and beat up for years, and people still listen to me. So yeah, no, it doesn't destroy the evidence. These things are made out of metal. When you make a groove on them, both the area outside the groove and inside the groove oxidize at the same rate. So it doesn't change the fingerprint.
So give me this one quick comment for me, because obviously the defense says, okay, so you think you've made this, connection between whether it's the cartridges or the bullets, they're just calling it, or rather the casings or the bullets, they're just calling it the cartridges. You made the connection between the firing range and the scene of the crime, which means that it's likely the Murdaugh gun that was used to kill the Murdaughs and then disappeared. Is it a problem that they don't have the gun anymore, or is what they found pretty darn strong?
It's circumstantial evidence, but it's very strong circumstantial evidence. The markings on the casing that are made by the ejector and the firing pin are quite unique. And if you found casings that had those markings on the property and casings that had those markings, at the scene of a crime, that would tend to suggest that the same gun fired them, and ditto for the bullet. So when they dig a slug out of a human being, whether that's a rifled slug or whether that is a bullet from a rifle, you can match that against the bullets that you find in the backstop of a personal range or a commercial range.
I think that's what we're going to find during trial. Yeah, we don't have that in the pretrial motions, that they used the actual slugs that were found in the remains, the corpses of the Murdaugh family. But I think we'll hear that, and then you're going to have to come back again and help me navigate through that horrible business. Will you do that? Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.